Hello everyone, it's Shel C from PaperOcotilloStudio, and today I'm sharing with you the Pick a Stick Challenge Artist Trading Card Challenge. Pick a Stick Challenge is a Facebook group where we offer a couple challenges each month that are randomly drawn one-word prompts. We have sticks with one-word prompts. We randomly draw them, and then you need to use the prompts and use them in order. And then there's also a color or two colors in the art journal page, and then there's also a wild card that you can use to replace one of the steps if you don't like it or if you don't have it or whatever. The first step for February's ATC was blend, and so I have a piece of a scrap of watercolor paper, 140-pound thick watercolor paper, and it's big enough to make 3 ATCs, so I figured I'd just make 3 at a time because one just seems like, I don't know, a waste of time. Not exactly a waste of time, but it's like, why don't you just make more while you're making them? Because I send these out with thank you notes and stuff when people donate to my channel or people commission me to do something or whatever. February, I have the opportunity to use colors that I like purple and pink, and actually, surprisingly, the color that was chosen randomly drawn, one of the colors was fuchsia, which is a very February color. So I figured I'd take advantage of that. And I started with some Neo Color 2 water-soluble crayons on my watercolor paper. Just scribbled them on some different ones. The lighter colors I started with lavender, light blue, light pink. And then I blended those with a baby wipe. And I did have to spritz a little water on there just to get them a little bit more blendy. Then I took a stencil. That's a Stencil Girl stencil designed by Mary Beth Shaw herself, who's the owner of Stencil Girl. And I used some Versamark sticky gluey ink, just using the pad and sponging it right through the stencil. And then I put on some thick embossing powder that I have tinted myself to make it look more like encaustic wax or beeswax. And then now I'm taking some distress pads. Remember, these are water reactive, highly water reactive pads, and I'm just blending those over the top. And by doing that, I get a resist effect. So the embossing powder saved what was underneath where I had blended the Neocolor 2s, and then over the top I'm blending in a little bit darker colors. So I've got picked raspberry, which is close to the fuchsia color, and then a lavender and a yellow. And I used a makeup style, or I mean a toothbrush style makeup brush to blend, and then continued to blend using that same baby wipe, which is mostly dry at this point, but makes a cool effect. And embossing powder is always a good resist product because it really will retain what's underneath. You just need to use clear powder and you need to use clear ink, and then you can, keep what's under and then color over the top. So it's always fun to do. You can do it with any product. It doesn't have to be distress inks. That's just happened to be something that was close by. So the next step, the next prompt is sand. And I noticed that this extra thick embossing powder that I have tinted with some re-inker it looks a lot like sand. So I decided to go ahead and put another coat of it, and I heat it, but I don't heat it down all the way to glassy. I keep it kind of bumpy because, it'd be the texture that I'm looking for as far as sand goes. So it actually worked out really well. I heated it most of the way so that it would stay on there, and then I went over it and sealed it with some fluid matte medium just to keep it all sealed in there to make sure that none of it fell off. This also has the result of making it more dulled. It's not so shiny, and it makes it look more like a sand would because sand's not shiny. It is made out of silicate, so it has a little bit of shine to it. But yeah, not that not that shiny. So then I wanted those sandy areas to show up a little bit more, and so I went over them with a fuchsia crayon, the Neo Color Choose again. These are water soluble, and then I used a water brush to blend that so that it would kind of go down in and among the little sandy pieces. And then to highlight them even more, I used some Dina Wakley paint. It's a heavy body paint called Ancient, which is kind of a coppery bronze color, a color I really enjoy. So then I used a sponge to just kind of like buff over the top of the bumpy areas, and it gave a highlight. So now you have, a shadow and a highlight to make that sandy texture show a little bit more. And then to make it show even more, I got some golden high flow paint in dioxazine purple, which is a very deep purple, and I did some dripping over the texture as well, to give even more of a shadowy area, using a spray bottle to just kind of spread it a little bit, and then I blot a little bit in areas to lighten up some of the areas with my paper towel. And I'm pretty happy with that background. I think it looks pretty darn cool. Dry it up to make sure everything's dry, and then I go and add just a little bit more of that ancient paint, going over the sandy texture again, just to add the highlight back where it had been covered up a little bit by that dioxazine purple. So yeah, pretty cool. I like it. So that takes care of sand, and then I go and cut it up. I cut a size of an artist trading card is the same as a baseball card or a Yu-Gi-Oh card or one of those, and it's a Pokemon card. I'm kind of aging myself a little bit. um, it's 2.5 inches by 3.5 inches. So I cut some cardstock 2.5 inches by 3.5 inches, and then I trimmed down the painted piece 2.25 by 3.25 so that it has a little bit of a frame. I like to do that with my artist trading cards. I think they look better when they have a little bit of frame around them. It just makes me happy. So then I mounted them on, and with one of them, it was crooked. And by the time I tried to straighten it, I'm gluing these down with Aleene's tacky glue, which it dries fairly quickly and is tacky so that things stay in place and you don't have them sliding around. But I made it crooked and that bothered me, so I peeled that one off and I used a scrap of copper brushed metallic cardstock on that one. So then for the next step, it's geometric, and I decided I was going to make something to put on the top to be like a focal image, because now I have these pretty backgrounds, but I don't have anything in the front of them. So I took another scrap of the same watercolor paper and painted it with that same ancient paint, and then also some copper, and just kind of spread that around with a big brush. And then I'm using a stencil that has circles on it, and circle is one of the geometric shapes, so I figure that qualifies as geometric. So I'm using a small sponge, and I just wanted just the circles, but there's these open diamond-shaped areas in the stencil, and I'm getting a little bit overzealous and getting that pattern on there too, which I don't like, but I end up fixing it in the end. So that color is another one of the Dina Wakley heavy body paints, and I think it's eggplant. Yeah, I think eggplant is what it is. So I use that, and then also some of that dioxazine purple high flow to put some circles on this piece of paper for my geometric. And once that was done, I gave it a good dry, and then at that point, I hated it. I didn't like it. I don't like those little diamonds. So I decided to draw around the circles. One of the things that these 1 ounce bottles from Dina Wakley have is a little tip, and I thought I could just use the little tip to draw around the circles, which makes a dimensional effect, which is pretty darn cool. But then I realized it's going to take forever to dry. So I didn't want to wait. So I took a brush. Well, first I was cleaning up those little diamonds. Then I just took the brush and just used it to kind of spread out the paint. so that it wouldn't take so long to dry. If I wasn't so impatient, it would have looked cool to have that dimensional effect on there with the heavy body paint. So then I just rolled my paper towels over it, and I wished I would have done it with a piece of scratch paper because I could have saved that for later. It looked really cool with those circles on there. The the paper towel's blue. It's not so cool, but maybe I'll use it anyway. Then I just took some of my Neocolor 2 crayons again in lavender and fuchsia and eggplant, and just made more scribbly circles around the circles, and then I was happier with it. Then I cut them out. I cut that piece into some irregularly shaped hearts because it's February and I can still get away with hearts. I like hearts anyway, but I really feel like I can overuse them this month. And I needed them to have some edges, so I got some more of that same dark purple paint and sponged around the edges of them with a dark purple so that they could not be quite as, they're the same tones as the background, so they were just kind of blending in, and so I wanted them to be able to stand out a little bit. Then what did I do next? Oh, I thought it would be cool to splatter them with this copper paint pen that I have, which when dry, it really looks like little pieces of metal on there. But the one thing I don't like about it is that it takes forever to dry because it's an oil-based pen. Also, when I get it on my craft mat, I can't clean it off because the oil-based paint just gets on there and smooshes onto it, which annoys me. But it does have a really cool effect when it's dry. So I set aside my little hearts, and I got out some copper thread, and it's just metallic copper thread, and I tangle it up, um, wrap it around my fingers, tangle it up, and it makes this cool little textural piece if you put it on the card. Of course, it tries to get away. It's hard to keep it managed. First, I thought I would glue it. Then I thought, I'm just going to put some foam squares on the back of the heart anyway, so that will stick it down and I don't need to put any glue on there. So that's what I end up doing. And I try to dry the spots, but they don't dry fast enough for me. I smear them, so then I have to resplatter it later and just set it aside to dry. Just have to stop being so darn impatient. And that's when I figured out that pen doesn't come off my mat. I tried to clean it up and it doesn't come off. So I'm going to have to put alcohol or something on there to clean that off my craft mat. That Teflon mat's nothing's supposed to stick to it, right? That's what they say. Tell you what, this oil paint pen sticks to it. Then I just use the same paint pen to add a little bit of detailing to that one. Splattered it, set it aside, and then the next one I wrapped the thread around the heart itself and just kind of messily tied it on there and put that one down with the same foam squares. And then the third one, I wrapped it around my fingers and made it more like some loopy circles instead of like a tangled thing. I know it's subtle differences, but there are differences. I hope you're enjoying this video. If you are, remember to give it a thumbs up. Leave me a comment or question below. You can subscribe. You can turn on your notification bells. You can pin this on Pinterest, share it on Facebook, all those things. All those things help out my channel, and I'm very grateful when you guys do it. And I do really have a chance eventually to read every single comment and answer. So I appreciate that. Also, if you would like to play along with this challenge, I will put the link to Pick a Stick Challenge Facebook group in the description box below. You can click on that and ask to join. Just make sure that you answer the questions, because those questions are to ensure that we don't have people coming in there that just spam. and try to sell things and spam the group. And we've been really lucky not to have that. And one of the preventions is to make sure that people answer the questions. So I finished off the ATCs with these. This is a digital download from Gina B. Aaron's Designs. She has an Etsy shop, and I will link the digital download below. It's designed to print onto a certain size of stickers, which I didn't have when I printed this. So I just printed it on regular paper. I cut them out, and they're just little words. The download comes with white, turquoise, and black backgrounds. So I put some word strips on there and I was done. That's it for me. Thanks. Bye bye.